Hello, and welcome to the Cancer Journey podcast. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sherry.
So today we're going to be talking about grief, but specifically we're going to be talking about good grief and what that means for us. But before we do that, we're going to start with our Pesh. So I'll go first this time. Physically, I am a 4.5, emotionally a 4.6, spirits a 4.4, and hope is a 4.3, and my word is easy.
Okay. Physically, I am 4.25. Emotionally, 4.4. Spirit, 4.6. 4.6. And my word is rising.
Okay. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about grief, which is definitely something that comes up along the cancer journey, whether it is, initially when we think about grieving, we think about someone passing. And so there is that idea of grief, but there's also anticipatory grief as someone is, on their journey, perhaps out, but uncertain what was going to happen. And just generally the way that we hold grief. I think it becomes a really heavy thing even the moment someone hears it, right? And it's just like there's this weight. And it almost feels like a dead weight and that there isn't a lot to do with it. Or maybe even the stages of grief people think about. What comes up for you when we say grief, Sharianne?
Immediately it was loss, and it is the death or the letting go of something. And then what came up for me was, in the pit, we need to let something go that no longer serves us. And this is a personal thing for us, something that only we can let go of. And so what came up for me is, letting go of, well, okay, one of the things that I had to let go of when I was going through my cancer journey was doing it all by myself, like going, I got it, I can handle this. Couldn't handle everything while I was going through a cancer journey. And so that felt like one of the biggest lessons that I had. But here's where grief came in. I had to let go of that person. And it was such a kind of well grooved path for me and way of being, that letting go of that part of me left kind of this hole. It's like, okay, so I fill it with asking people. That's new, kind of uncomfortable, so easy to want to slide back or grab onto that old me that's like kind of lawyering up. It's like, okay, I got it. Get out of my way. I'm coming through. Versus like, okay, who can help me? And then it felt like another giving up of myself of, am I letting go of me personally to let other people in?
Yeah.
I don't know, that may sound hazy, but that's what's feeling.
Yeah. And I think that's actually exactly what grief feels like. It feels hazy. Grief feels super hazy and uncertain, and it is like this overarching term for this experience that we're having. And what I actually like about the fact that we have that projection of grief being heavy and negative and sad is that there's space for that, whereas a lot of other things in our life, in our world, we don't make space for that sadness. We don't give someone the time to just be with it. If someone says they're grieving, I find less often people are like, snap out of it. Let's keep going, right? Like that positive toxic positivity is a lot less present because when someone's grieving, we actually let them have that time and space to do it. And it's not an easy process. It does not show up the same for everyone. And I do think that like the anticipatory grief, the grief when something is lost, the grief after, throughout the entire process, like I think that the umbrella of that being grief is so real because they can't be defined. And that's why sometimes it's nice to have that word, because it does encapsulate so much of this experience. There are ups, there are downs. And so something we also wanted to talk about too was the good grief and the good that comes with it. Because yes, there is this part of grief that is really heavy, this heavy loss, this recalibration of yourself and what really matters, what mattered, what, like giving time to honor what is no longer there. But there's also, especially in that perspective, this positiveness in it, this joy, this remembrance of memories with someone, or even just memories of how you felt, what they give you. When it's an individual too, you can then kind of think of the not just the individual memories like the Christmas or something like that, but the way they made you feel on a daily basis, the small notes they sent you, um, yeah, just the way that it impacts your life, your emotions, your being, and who you are and who you've become out of it, all kind of go into what I consider to be good grief.
So, what's your experience of good grief?
Yeah, I mean, I had a very tragic event happen in my life about like 3 years ago, and I lost someone very, very dear to me. And I mean, it was very sudden. It was very sudden. It was unexpected, not unlike someone on a cancer journey. So, in that sense, my role is much more of like a caregiver. And I do think caregivers are the ones who are experiencing this grief more heavily than perhaps the person who is actually going through it, because I deeply believe that when someone passes, they're no longer suffering. They're no longer kind of trapped in the physical body that is weighing them down, and there's lightness that comes for them. But for those of us that are left behind, it weighs heavily on our hearts. And so my experience of it, it was very physical, the way that I felt like there were changes. And yeah, I just felt like a tightness like all the time for probably like a
Mm.
month, with obviously on and off crying. But I'm also in at that time, and even now, was in the best position to be handling a situation like that, because I had the Cancer Journey Institute. I had just gone through the certification program, and I had so much clarity around my own emotions, being with other people's emotions too, and how to honor all of that space that before being with the Cancer Journey Institute, it would have just looked like imploding and maybe
Mhm.
self-destructiveness. But being able to kind of process my feelings the way I was, regardless of how hard it was, how heavy I felt, how broken I felt, there was this constant air of feeling like, but that individual wouldn't want me to self-destruct. And that person didn't want me to miss out on life. And they wanted the best for me. And I got to honor all these messages and look back at all of what we had together, um, and know that they weren't gone forever. You know, like their memory stays alive with me, and it does influence my day to day. Even now, you know, I think about them constantly, and I get to know that I am honoring the relationship we had and the spirit of that individual and what they wanted to give me and what they wanted to give the world, really. Um, and know that that presence is still there.
Wow, that's helpful. Thank you. As I am lucky enough not to have someone very, very close to me pass, but what everything that you were saying brought me to the cancer, back to the cancer journey that someone is on when they're the patient. And there is this common phrase of that person I used to be. I want to go back to when it was normal. I want that person again. So there's this grieving of that person that they were before they started their cancer journey. And we know that the cancer journey is also a journey of change. So you're changing all along the way. Not only are you physically changing, but like your cells, your personality, everything, your values, they're changing. Maybe not personality so much, but I still believe that you do from my experience and what I've seen. But what I was really getting was that person is not there as they were when you were explaining what you experience in grief, but there is that I can hold on to the parts of me that I really love, that I want to keep with me. And it doesn't have to be the old version. We can take it and let it be the current version, but have the essence of what that was. When you said, I don't know, I kind of got, I don't remember the words exactly, but I got the essence of that caring and the love and how generous of spirit that person was to you. And it's like, Well, yeah, I like that parts of me. So, how do I show that now in this iteration, me while I'm on the cancer journey for others and for myself, which is really one of my big discoveries. It's like, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I have to care for myself. That's what I really got from you explaining what it was like for you and knowing that we do mourn the loss of something not being there in the way that we remembered, but we can take the best parts and continue that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like you just mentioned mourning, that is exactly where I like wanted to go next too, is that like I gave myself time to mourn. Gave myself time to feel broken and helpless and hopeless and um god, just like in all possible ways, like sad. Like I may have said this before, I don't easily cry. I was crying daily, like constantly. I mean, I made you fly out to where I am and be with you for like a whole month because I was like, I can't do it. And I was lucky enough to be in the situation that I was. And I do think with with all of this happening, I was, and maybe it's the perspective I choose to stand in with it too, but I feel very lucky with the situation that I had at hand. I had no regrets when they had passed. I had so much support from everyone that I was like working with and doing projects with, and I have a lot of close friends that were very, very supportive and also knew this individual. I was really lucky to be in that space because not everyone is. Sometimes people are like, well, I'm going to force my way to go to work now. And there simply was no possible way, if I was being really honest and true with myself, that I was going to be able to do that with any degree of success. And everything else would have suffered, like everyone else I was working with would have suffered, my work would have suffered. And honestly, that's not, at the end of the day, it was like work can't matter. It's one of those things that's like, it's a very humbling experience in that because, day to day, most of the things that we're doing are work. Maybe we're seeing some friends or some loved ones or playing with our pets and making ourselves food, but all of that kind of comes crashing down when grief is in the room and when active mourning is in the room too. And there's a lot of realization of like what matters and what doesn't matter at that time. And even the things that matter, they don't matter as much, and they need that time to not matter for you to find the value for yourself again and find out where you personally are going to start picking up pockets of hope, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. My pocket of hope is knowing that this person loved me so deeply and so completely, and I felt the same way, that they wouldn't want me to self-destruct, which I think is a really, really big thing that people do, not just when they're sad and when they're grieving, but like people will do it for kind of like the smallest thing. So to not self-destruct was both in service of me, but in service of honoring the life and the spirit that this person brought to me. And that was really um really grateful. I'm really grateful I was in one of the best situations I think I could have been in then, but it again doesn't make it any worse, or sorry, it doesn't make it any better. But the mourning of it, for me, mourning is really active. It's really like being with your emotions and not letting anything else matter. And I think it's a really important part of grief and processing through your grief. I also don't think grief ever truly goes away. It's more acute at sometimes, and sometimes it's a little more like passive and in the background. But kind of once it's there, it's always there. It doesn't truly go away. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing because it helps you remember them and it helps you keep their memory alive for yourself and with other people. I learned a lot through my grief journey. And I think on a cancer journey, it's hard to attach where grief comes in because grief can hit you at so many different places. Like you said, when you were saying, I know I'm talking a lot right now, but when you were saying
Okay.
that the patient is grieving the person that they were before, they also have anticipatory grief for what's coming next, all of the things that are happening. And so the anticipation of it sometimes is worse than being in it actually, because if you're someone like me who has deliberative really high, you're expecting the worst and you're wanting to mitigate that as much as possible. But I mean, it's a very common saying and it's not often practiced, but the best way is through, not around. You can't go around anything. You have to go through it. And with grief, I think there are so many of us that are, it's like, it's so uncomfortable. Like, I can't go through it because that is like absolute darkness and I don't know what's there. But the sooner we embrace it, that is the truth and that is what's going to happen, the easier it is to go through, because as much as you try to go around it, it'll always pull you back through the middle. And so the avoidance makes it even harder. But when you're an active patient, there's so much of those feelings fluctuating constantly. Um, and so like even just the recognition of that and the fact that like when you're grieving or mourning or any of that, what we really need is some softness and some understanding, especially for yourself. Because if you're not giving yourself that and you're only expecting it from other people, you're missing a key factor in there. If I didn't give myself softness, everything else would have kind of come crashing down, I think, and everything would have felt heavier than it already did at that time. So to have support and be able to ask for support is also really important, because that's also giving yourself that softness. And it's not to say any of this is easy. It's
Right.
gonna feel really hard. Grief is really hard. And then you get to, the caregivers, and well, the caregivers it's the hardest to be a caregiver, I think, when it comes to grief, because regardless if your loved one does pass or they don't, there is this like kind of embodied grief that there's often fear to release, whether it's anticipatory or actual mourning and grief. There's this like, I can't release it, I can't put it anywhere, I can't do anything with it, because if I do, the person I love is going to feel it, and I can't let that happen.
Right. So lots of suppression.
Yes.
And while you were speaking, it made me think about the caregiver and how anticipatory grief is kind of there all along the way, because it's attached to the fear of what's going on, not having any control. You can't take it away for your beloved. So you're there doing everything you possibly can to make sure that they stay, like they're okay. It's like, what treatments can we do? What do you need in this moment to feel more comfortable? It's like all about them. And in the back of that is this anticipatory grief of, if they go, and you're trying not to go there, but it's almost impossible to not, because it's just kind of simmering like a simmering pot in the back of the stove. It's like, when they go, if they go, and then so you're already grieving something that isn't happening there. And the truth is, they're going to be different from this. So even if they survive, like so many of us are these days, they're a different person. And so there's that partner or beloved that they have known all the way up to here in this variation, and all of a sudden it can be a pretty drastic change, and it's like, I don't know how to be with this. I don't know what to do with this. Well, you don't do anything, but we always feel like, it's an unknown crazy situation. I want to control it. So what do I do? What can I do to impact it, impart some kind of anything? And so it's this kind of like you're saying, take my hands off the wheel and feel my emotions and let it be what it is. And it's like, I can't do that. So if we come back to, though, the good part of this grief is kind of, for me, with that pot simmering in the back of the stove, it's simmering, and so it's not this big boiling over, so it's almost like I can temper it. Like I could take the lid off a little bit and grieve a little bit now. Doesn't make it better when something drastic happens, but it it allows me to just process and be back to being present. I know we just did a podcast on being present, with the five senses. It's like back to back to being present. And what's important is I get to be with my beloved. So let me take what's here and hold it preciously, not tightly, just preciously, and allow myself to savor it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm right with you too. Like, there is no solution to grieving. There is only living with it. And so when grief is really heavy in the room, or you can't really see anything but that. Really great practice is that getting present and like what's here for you right now, right? Not like what's going to happen in the future and how I'm going to handle that, or any of that. I mean, it could be even nice to go through the past and be like, what were the highlights? What was important to me about what happened there? Or what do I want to say to that individual? But to get present and real about what's here in this moment is really important. And I think that we have this concept of false emotions. I'm hesitant to put grief in that category because it's not a false emotion. I think of it as an umbrella, but I don't think of grief as an emotion. Grief is kind of like a state, like an emotional state that we're in, but it is the umbrella that encapsulates all of these different emotions, like the gratitude, the sadness, the hopelessness, the helplessness, the depression, the like there's so many things that go in there. The hope, the joy that you felt with that person, even like there's so much that gets encapsulated in the feeling of grief. And to call any bit of that experience just grief and to just kind of file it away and be like, that's all, I think it's a disservice because it's almost like it's a ping from your being like, there's something here. Let's flush this out. Like, let's put 5 minutes on the clock. Let's cry a little bit, or let's just scream or whatever you need to do to kind of release it because it's energy, right? We say this so often. Like emotions are energy. They're coming up for a reason. And when we're able to release that energy, especially in the way that is aligned with that emotion, there's so much clarity that comes out of it. Because like, when you're frustrated and you're only seeing red, like we all know that's a bad time to make decisions or do anything. Like do what you need to do to make the red go away. You say, hold on, pause on everything. I need to go scream or like dunk my face in ice water or something just to help flush that out so I can think clearly and feel clearly. And all of that, it comes very real with grief as well because so much of it is present. I mean, your day to day, the actual like actions that you're taking day to day can feel completely influenced by those things. And while it's lovely to keep the person that you love in mind, keeping them in this present moment, however they are, is more important than taking whatever expectation you have of the future or even like negativity that you're pulling in from the past. Those don't need to be a part of this where you are right now. Unless you're really upset about something that happened in the past even. I mean, that's fine too, but regardless, express your emotion and like let it be whatever it needs to be to continue to be with your grief and
Yes.
find space where you can live and grieve at the same time.
Yes, because they can coexist. And what came up when you just said what you did was there is the spacious time in grieving to be in relationship with your emotions because that's the way out, right? You said the only way through is through, not around or pushing it away because that just keeps you stuck. But to progress and be in relationship with your emotions so that you can increase the possibilities of you like embracing all of life instead of like, oh, that hurt too much and I don't want to look at that, then all of a sudden your world starts shrinking. And I've seen this so many times where people's worlds become this small, and it's like, you have a choice. This is a choice point. Do you want to continue living in this small little place? Or do you want to deal with some of the uncomfortableness of whatever's showing up to live in a space that's beyond what were you could see my hands, right? And it's like, there is richness. This is the goodness. This is would dare I say gifts because there is gifts, so many on the cancer journey, including the grief of all of the things, yourself, others, just grieving loss of things and people. And I don't even know what else to say about that. But if we just connect with ourselves through our emotions, we'll have so many more resources to deal with what's going on. That feels like a takeaway. So I'm going to take that one as my takeaway. And so I'm going to jump right into my PESH. Physically, 4.25. It hasn't changed. But emotionally, I feel like I'm 4.5. My spirit is 4.7. My hope is 4.75. And my word is feeling.
Yeah. Okay, my takeaway. My takeaway is that grief is hard. Grief is really hard. And while grief is hard, you might as well try some other hard things too, like feeling your emotions and asking for help from people and acknowledging that once they help you, it might not feel right. I definitely on my journey was like, okay, everyone give me hugs. And I was like, actually, I don't want to hug everyone. But it was a nice try. I tried it out to see if it would be helpful. So being in grief is going to be uncomfortable anyways. It might be a great time for you to just try something else, not to get you out of grieving, but to get you into yourself and figure out what you need. Doing nothing is a little bit honestly more challenging, I think. So grief can be a good thing, for better or worse. And what also really really rings true right now, and this feels so takeaway, is that grief is proof that love was present. And I think that that is so true. You wouldn't grieve if you didn't care and if you didn't love. So it really is an honor to grieve. Pesh. Physically, I am 5. Emotionally, I am a 4.65. Spirit is a 4.45, and hope is a 4.3, and my word is honoring. Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week with a new episode.
Enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, you're more powerful than you realize.